see here. Stupid ass Streamlabs can be a piece of shit sometimes. Let's see. Yeah. Go here. God damn you piece of shit. Come on. Let's see. See.
People's religious beliefs to their fundamental beliefs about how humans evolved over the years. But I could
listen. I call this a farce, disclosure farce, because thing is that I knew and I told everybody a lot of what they're gonna be putting out is gonna be like a joke. Now some people, all right. Let's see. I've been on the site, you know, I've seen the videos, stuff like that, Moon and everything, and they just put out the shitty stuff, not the good stuff, which a lot of us knew this is going to happen. I mean, we see a lot better with some real footage on Twitter twatter, a lot. I just called it crap pretty much that they got. A lot of stuff is from the FBI files, and it's a bunch of stuff I already knew about that they were investigating. UFOs, stuff like that. Already knew that, and I don't know why, but there's people that were amazed, like, oh my god, they're investigating stuff. No shit, you idiot. I already knew that. I don't know, I feel like I know more than just about the most people, and stuff. I mean, I saw, what is it? Is it Goldie Gamari? Or something, Royal Revolution? They had a whole big special about UFOs and stuff like that. Holy shit. Let's see. I have to delete this. And I have to do this crap. Nope. Okay. Got this crap. Anyways. I see even like with Twitter stuff, my friend's Twitter, going on with some stuff here. I don't know. I mean, I already know about all this different. This is nothing big to me. Or extraterrestrial. Yeah, I knew about this shit. You know, I mean, like, none of this is like news to me. My stupid ass ears get in trouble. I don't know, I'm just pissed off, that there's a lot of video. And people can look this up at this site. Let's see, this is U.S. Department of War.gov/UFO/ /force. No. And everything. And I hate to say it because it's pretty bad that a lot of my videos I have are actually better. And George Knapp pissed me off when he said this. Let's see.
Foresee some strange possibilities that might be true. I know that the public says we can handle the truth. I'm not entirely sure that that's true because we don't really know what the truth is. A lot of folks.
Fuck you. Some of us do know it. Fuck you, George Knapp. Some of us do. Some of this stuff is interdimensional. Some of it is ETs from another world. And I wish people would stop, I don't know, assuming that people don't know stuff. I get pissed off. It's a trigger thing. It makes me want to, I'm not talking about him, but people like him. I just want to beat the shit out of them for being retards. Not knowing at least what I know. I mean, I've had UFO experiences my whole life. And everything, even when my family didn't think that I did, I didn't tell them anything and everything. So
think it's ETs from other planets, and we could probably handle that. We've
all
seen
the
enough movies
above.
and TV shows over the years, but I could foresee some strange possibilities that might be truly upsetting to people's religious beliefs, to their fundamental beliefs about how
this is the thing. This is together with some pastors and say like, hey, we're gonna be releasing some stuff. You might want to, thought we'd warn you. It's like, I want these religions fucking dead and gone. I want them destroyed because of what they've caused, the destruction and all this problems that they've started in this world and everything else, and what stupid religions have done to me, abuse in my, the religion I was in, brainwashing and stuff like that. I just want, the big ones, killed off and destroyed, and everything. And it's like, so now all these pastors, have these different narratives of, well, God creates everything, and we have to make up a new story so people won't leave our churches, and that's what I want. You don't need God to go to heaven. You don't. You don't need God or Jesus to have a good, life, to have a blessed life either. That's for, I think, lower IQ people that don't have an IQ and stuff, the dumb and the stupid. But there are angels, demons, and stuff out there. There's so-called extraterrestrials or aliens, what we call aliens, humans would call aliens, living on this world right now. We're not alone, there's Bigfoot, there's other creatures that are around, all the time. And, I mean, sometimes they're shown on video, and sometimes, people have gotten lucky to catch them. But, anyways.
Humans evolved.
He's an OG, but Jesus Christ, he pissed me off about that. Say, people aren't ready or they don't know what it is. It's like, fuck you, I do. I've always been right about what I've said, too.
Oh, Mystery Wire with George Knapp is back. I'm Ron Futrell. We've also got Carlos Sampson and John Forrest helping us out. Putting this together now, and the website, we're going to be updating the website on a regular basis. You and I started this project, now I'm thinking 7-8 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. There was a vice president from Nexstar, the company that owns KLAS, who saw the increased interest by the public, by our viewers at KLAS.
Mystery Wire with George Knapp. Okay.
When Colin Kelleher, who was his chief of operations, he made in 1996 was Skinwalker. Something called NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, put together this world-class science advisory board. It was physicists and philosophers and scientists of all kind, and they were to be the advisory group for NIDS, which was looking at UFOs and consciousness issues. Do we survive physical death? Eventually, for NIDS, the UFO topic kind of took over, but Bigelow became, over time, the single largest financier of UFO research in the history of the world. I mean, tens of millions of dollars. And one of the big purchases he made in 1996 was Skinwalker Ranch. I'd been reading about it. The Uinta Basin had been a hotbed of UFO activity for as long as humans had lived in that part of northeastern Utah. Native Americans, Mormon settlers, the oil industry, just about everybody who lived there had seen a UFO or someone else in their family had seen one. And Bob Bigelow read a little bit about it, flew to the ranch, met the family that lived there. They stayed there only 20 months. They had planned to live on that property for the rest of their lives. It was the ideal property they'd always sought, but within 20 months, they were done because of all the weird stuff that happened. So he bought the ranch. He installed a team of scientists with cameras and sensor systems on the property. And within a short period of time, they saw not only UFOs, but a lot of really strange phenomena. In 2000, I'd been pestering Robert Bigelow and Colin Kelleher, who was like his chief of operations, chief investigator, pestering him for a long time. Hey, let me go to this ranch. I've been seeing this stuff about what's going on, and I'd really like to go to that property. And I think in the year 2000, I made my first visit. And then the following year, I came back and brought a cameraman. Eric Sorensen was my photog for the I-Team back then. We went to the property, shot some stuff, and interviews with people who'd been there and seen strange things, with the plan of eventually producing a documentary. A couple of years and many visits later, Matt Adams and I had been there a number of times. Bigelow sort of nixed the idea of a documentary. He was worried that if all the notorious stuff that happened at the ranch got out and the location was known, that he'd be flooded with UFO conspiracy folks and tourists and partiers. Yeah. And I had tried to assure him that's not going to be the case, but it's exactly what happened later. I put the documentary on hold and instead wrote a book, co-authored with Colin Kelleher. In fact, today, 20 years ago today, that book first came out. And among the folks who read it were people at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Dr. Jim Lukatsky picked it up. He sees this stuff about holes in the sky that had opened and craft are coming in and out of that hole, and strange creatures and UFOs of every description that have been seen not only on the ranch but all over the basin, all over that particular circle of property, which is kind of like an island amid it's an island of private property inside and surrounded by this huge Indian reservation, the Ouray and Uinta Basin, Ouray and Uinta Reservation.
Northeast Utah.
Yeah.
It's way up there in northeast Utah.
Yeah. Roosevelt, Bernal, Ballard,
yes,
Fort Duchesne, that area.
Beautiful area, by the way.
Gorgeous.
And we've got, you'll see some video of it here in some of the interviews that we've got. But it's, we got to take a quick break, but it's interesting. He was aerospace. He started out with the aerospace interest. Certainly, we saw some of the videos. Who knew that was in North? Real quick, we got to go to break. But who knew that was in North Las Vegas? He was building all this aerospace stuff.
Well, we did because
You did,
he allowed
yes.
us to document it every step of the way.
Yeah.
We were there at every step and got video of each step of the process and what he was doing. He's got dozens and dozens of patents that he created for that. Had big plans. He has 3 spacecraft up in the air, by the way. One of them is attached to the ISS right now as we speak.
Okay, Dr. Jim Lakatsky is going to. We're going to have your exclusive interview with him coming up, where he talks. Disclosure is coming. Disclosure seems to be one of the things the government for years has been sheltering, but now they want to disclose more. They still haven't disclosed enough, but we'll have that.
Yeah, and this is the thing here. You go to the site, and U.S. Department of War stuff. You can see this, and I was just thinking, geez. Some of my videos are a lot better than this. This one seems like his artist rendition, of course, where a UFO goes in or into a porthole, disappears in and out of the portal. That's, of course, from the moon. You know, I've always told people, and you know that. Astronauts said, you know, that there were ETs following, or not ETs, but there were UFOs and orbs following them. And a lot of idiots did believe that. I come out right again. I knew that. And so some, you know, the astronauts, you know, talked about this before too. I'm not going to just lie about it and say, oh yes, yeah, there's UFOs out there, just lie about it. No, I already knew about this stuff. You know, the astronauts some of the astronauts talking about, including structures on the moon as well. And let's see here. I want to get to sound it. Where is this it? This is another one right here, but. Let's see here. Because I remember this guy was putting out the head of NASA. And there it is.
Is that the booster or is that an actual sighting? Say again, 7?
Okay, we have several, looks like debris up there, actual sighting. It looks like hundreds of little particles going by from west out about 3 to 4 miles.
Understand you have many small particles going by on the left. At what distance?
4 miles. Looks like
this is not his, by the way. It's not his.
Roger, understand they're about 3 to 4 miles away.
They're past now, they're going to pull over. The booster on my side is a brilliant body of the sun.
This is not UAP James's. That motherfucker. That's what it is.
This is Houston. Say
This is some stuff that's been released, but yeah.
This is Houston.
But anyways, I mean, some stuff I remember years ago. I'd say at least 10 to 15 years ago. I remember hearing audio from like the History Channel, I believe, where they had transcripts of astronauts going around, you know, the dark side, and then were communicating with Houston or Australia, saying that they were seeing UFOs around them being followed, and when they were that's 1969, yeah. I already said that myself. And like I said, some stuff you could, nobody owns this. Is government, so nobody owns it. Nobody has copyright with this stuff. Nobody does. This is for the public. And this one right here is of Greece, I believe, wasn't it? Where's land? Yeah, near Greece. You just see a little speck. It's like they want to put out some of the shittiest stuff that there is. There's that one that we saw. Like I said, all these people on Twitter piss me off because they act like it's theirs and try to copyright it, and they don't own shit. So I didn't get on them probably. This is my friend's Twitter, as well. And they say, like, fuck you, this isn't yours. You have no right to claim it as yours. This is public domain and everything. There's a helicopter and a little... You see what I'm saying, though? Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and stuff. And I download some stuff as well. I knew about this already. I already knew about this stuff. This is my friend's bit. Fuck it. Anyways, it's just right. They say that they're releasing more stuff, more pictures, in the weeks ahead each week. And so, like Grush, I want to go to Grush. I want to go to the NASA spokesman. Actually, I've had enough of this. Let's see. I want to go to. Let's see here. Go to here. Go to. Oh, let's see what. Let's see here. Let's see. This is just one. This News Nation. Bases on the moon. Yes, there are. There are bases on the moon.
Well, g'day and welcome to Reality Check, a special edition to follow what is probably one of the bigger news stories of recent times, the small D disclosure day. The Trump administration has finally begun releasing UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena,
UFOs.
Otherwise known as UFO files, held by the Department of War, the Department of Defense, the Pentagon. And is it a big nothing burger? Is it really just a bit of a meh event?
Like what David Grush says, let me see if I got it right here. Where is that was 1 hour ago. Sword Chasers. Let's see.
Well, I'm going to be bringing in several experts and commentators today, but first I want to give you my two bobs worth. There are 162 total records that have been released today, 8th of May 2026, and we are told it is the first tranche of what will be multiple tranches. Right. 82 of those are records from the Department of War. There's 56 records from the FBI, most of which we've seen before. Right. 12 records from NASA, 8 records from the State Department, and 28 videos involving unresolved UAP reports. Now, What do you make of this? Well, frankly, I guess we've all been bracing ourselves. We've been telling you in recent weeks that we shouldn't get too excited about this supposed disclosure, that the suspicion was it was going to be fairly tame. It certainly doesn't involve an admission of the retrieval or reverse engineering program of UAPs, and contrary to some speculation that's been feverish online, it didn't involve any admission that Roswell 1947 or indeed any subsequent UAP crash incident was indeed alien spacecraft. But it's a start, and I have to tell you privately, my dear viewers, between you and me, I had a call from somebody quite senior in the administration today who told me that we should give President Trump a chance. And they felt I was being a bit mean with my commentary that this is essentially just a diversion from the Epstein files and the growing miseries of the Iran war. I'm tempted to hopefully believe that. I genuinely want the presidency of Donald Trump to be remembered as the disclosure presidency. Frankly, I'm holding my breath. What I'm hearing from too many people is that the president is intimidated by the military-industrial complex, that there is too much power in the hands of anonymous men and women inside the Pentagon and the intelligence community.
This is the thing that I said. In order for, if Trump really would be serious about disclosure, I said there is a way he could do it, and that is to get rid of all these people that have been in the National Security Council, the heads of the CIA, and DI, Defense Intelligence Agency, etc., and anybody else. Put his own people in there. Get those others out. Get the religious idiots out of there that are saying they don't want people to know. And there's a lot of religious people that are in these agencies, and you should be religious to be in there, because for decades I have known of people that believe that UFOs is the stuff of demons or angels, demons. And the thing is, the Russians have actually seen angels in space. I believe that was Soyuz 7 and stuff like that. I've seen angels. There are different entities and everything. They're different dimensional. So like I said, there are ETs that could be from other worlds and be extra dimensional. What I mean by that is, what they could do is break down all physics and natural barriers. Like, say, take our house. They could go right through solid matter. They could go through windows, they could go through doors. They can make us go through solid objects. They have a way of totally destroying all solid matter, subatomic level, and stuff like that. So, people are saying, just what I call it extra dimensional. And the thing is, it's all the above and everything. And the thing is, unlike a lot of people, I have experiences from all kinds of paranormal stuff. Not just UFOs, not just, ghosts or whatever, and seeing the dead. It's also angels, demons, and other things like that I've seen, especially more often when I was a kid, and everything. So,
community and private aerospace, and frankly, we can't expect too much. But as the Disclosure Foundation acknowledged today, Admiral Tim Gallaudet put out a press release, and he made the point that it's a significant release because it reinforces a core point that we all know. There is a genuine public interest in this issue. UAPs have been documented, Tim says, across government agencies, across decades, across the world, and continue to be reported today. They're not simply a matter of speculation or public curiosity. The government's been keeping records and they've been holding back on them. I think, personally, one of the most embarrassing things for the government is NASA. Bill Nelson pledged that there were no UAP files when he was the NASA administrator. Was he lying, or was he misled? We now know for a fact that NASA acknowledges in its own reports that its transcripts, and this has been around for some time, its own astronauts were reporting anomalous objects, anomalous lights. And this bears out what we've been telling you on Reality Check for the last few weeks. These lunar anomalies reported to us on multiple programs by Max Derek-Shani. You're going to be hearing more about this next week. Ultimately, what Max has been revealing has been borne out by the Department of War investigation. It turns out they accept that there is probably a physical object there. There is a there worthy of investigation. Significant too for the debate.
This is the thing is that Bill Nelson himself has said before years ago that there probably is, evidence of life. He pretty much said that there was, actually. And these past couple of years since Trump got in, he totally did a total 180 and said this stuff isn't real. And like I keep saying, this guy, these sons of bitches at NASA are scammers. They want to take, they want to scam the American taxpayer, make billions of dollars, make fake space programs, but we have the technology to already go to other galaxies. And then we can, have bases on the moon and stuff like that, and everything else, and limitless energy and everything else. It's all a scam that NASA is doing, and they want to keep getting those funds from Congress that they should be getting. They should be shut down in a way.
Who always say why these events only ever occur in the United States. It's quite clear these events are global. They're happening all over the world, and the files that have been released today run from 1944 to 2026. This is an issue that the government never stopped investigating after Project Blue Book, despite the lies have been told. We know now that there's been ongoing investigations into UAPs, that data has been being collected. The big questions that are being asked: will the government release more complete case files? Will the public receive clearer explanation for why some records remain redacted? Will Congress receive the videos and records it has already requested? Because none, I'm told, of the 46 videos requested by Anna Paulina Luna, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, have been released in today's release. And will independent experts, the Disclosure Foundation asks, have enough information to evaluate the cases responsibly? Will this become a sustained transparency process rather than a one-time release? So before I bring in my friend and commentator Lou Elizondo, who's going to make his first appearance on the show since his mortifyingly dangerous motorcycle accident, I just want to remind people what the president himself has said today about this. He said, "As for my promise to you, the Department of War has released the first tranche of the UFO UAP files to the public for their review and study. In an effort for complete and maximum transparency, it was my honour to direct my administration to identify and provide government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects. Whereas," the president says, "previous administrations have failed to be transparent on this subject, with these new documents and videos, the people can decide for themselves," President Trump says. What the hell is going on, he asks. Have fun and enjoy, President Donald Trump. Now, Fox News' Peter Doocy reported that they'd received a statement from the White House emphasising that today's release was the beginning of maximum transparency to the public. I wouldn't call what we've seen today maximum transparency to the public. And I know Lou and I have both been briefed about other videos held by the Pentagon and by other agencies that haven't been included in today's release that damn well should be. The Department of Energy, the NRO, the NGA. All of these organisations need to be brought within this transparency promise made by the President. I note also that one of the President's sternest critics of recent times, former MAGA supporter Marjorie Taylor Greene, has said that this is merely the White House looking at the shiny objects propaganda, while the administration, she says, wages foreign wars. She says,
I don't give a fuck if you don't give a fuck about them. The thing is, UFOs have been a part of our history. They had a part in making us who we are. They've had a part in different civilizations, and how we can go to other galaxies, and how we can learn telepathy and psychic abilities. I think you're probably too retarded for what it sounds like to know that. You don't have the IQ or the intelligence to know that. So,
unless they roll out live aliens and test demo UFOs or actually admit what we know this really is, then I have way better things to do this Friday, says MTG. Representative Eric Burleson's obviously a lot more optimistic, a member of the UAP caucus. He says every previous president has dismissed or openly mocked the UAP topic. President Trump is choosing transparency. What dropped today, Eric Burleson says, is just the tip of the iceberg. I anticipate that much more compelling disclosures are coming. Kind of begs the question, though, why release your low-hanging fruit today? Why disappoint rather than dazzle? Why not hold back until you release the whole lot in a way that can actually make the public realise this is definitively, once and for all, a real issue? That's another question I'm going to be asking our guests tonight. Representative Eric Burleson explains that it's not been easy, that it's a big task to go through these files and find them across the morass of government, and that it's taking time to put all this together. Tim Burchett, God bless him, the master of the noble phrase, he says, remember the feds told us these files didn't exist and Donald Trump stood up to the deep state. The first drop will be big.
They didn't put really anything out that at least I didn't know about already. And look, the thing is, this stuff, I mean, just going over the same old stuff. Let's see here, close. Let's see about any of these videos. Like I said, you can go here to U.S. Department of War /UFO / and I went through some of the stuff myself, and it was just them going over cases of UFOs being seen by other people, college professors talking about it, UFOs, and how the FBI was, investigating these cases of professors looking at anti-gravity and stuff, UFOs, and how also one individual made, they had a classified paper where UFOs are stuff, must be the stuff of demons, and we should be prepared to say so. It's just, to me, it's already stuff that I knew about 35 years ago or so, and they didn't put out anything like, evidence that we had of UFO crashes. There are reports of crashes in these files, and people should download them. Again, these guys do not own any of this stuff. Like, that's So yeah, UAP James, he doesn't own that, or any of this stuff is public knowledge. It's government, so it belongs to everybody. Let's see here. That's not it. This is it right here.
He said prior to this release, but in comparison to what is coming, they will be a drop in the bucket. I would say, Tim Burchett says, holy crap is coming. I hope he holds good to his promise.
Yeah.
And just for a polish before we bring Lou in, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, the former House Majority Leader, Senate Majority Leader, has said for decades UFO disclosure has been a distant object, unidentified and unexplained. That's starting to change. I'll keep pushing until we land on the truth. And that's significant because as a member of the Gang of Eight, Chuck Schumer should have been cleared in to all of these secrets, because at the heart of this is what people like Lou Elizondo, who we're going to bring in now, has been pledging for years. Why haven't members of the Gang of Eight, and I've spoken to some of them myself, been told about the full extent of the Pentagon's retrieval and reverse engineering program? Lou Elizondo, welcome back to Reality Check, sir. It's good to see you.
I've said this before and others have, is that people in Congress are only in there a certain amount of time. These secret special access programs, stuff is above top secret. And they'd be going on decades, they'd be going out longer than people are alive, etc. They don't want to have to deal with stupid senators asking questions and everything else. They just want to get, endless amounts of money thrown at them, on these black projects and everything else. They don't care to tell Congress anything, and of course they think they're above Congress, and there's a lot of criminal stuff going on with this. So,
in one piece,
Ross, it is always an honor and privilege to see you, my friend.
So what's your take? Give me your hot take, please, on today's small d disclosure. Wow.
So you know that old adage, we laughed, we cried. I can see everybody's perspective here. When Tim Burchett says this is just a drop in the proverbial bucket, I would go a step further. I think this is a drop in the proverbial ocean. Let's not forget what the Department of Defense's response was, the Department of War's response was when this statement you just read from the president basically saying that we're going to release these files. It's my honor and privilege. The Department of War came out and they said that there are literally tens of millions. Now think about that number, tens of millions of these documents, and a lot of them are hard copy. Right. So there is a trove of information, and I know that's to be true because when I was in the Pentagon with ATIP, we had access to them. We saw the documents, we saw the videos, we saw the photographs, we saw the reports. So I agree. I also will give credit where credit is due. As critical as some may be about this president and this release of information, no, it's not a whole lot, but it's a start. And you know what? No other president has done that yet. So he made good on his promises. Doesn't matter what you think of him politically, whether you're on the right or the left or anywhere in the middle. The bottom line is this is one area where the man's delivered. So we have to give him credit for that. And hopefully they're right that this is only the first tranche, quote unquote, of many to follow. Otherwise, it doesn't do us any good other than to satisfy some curiosity some people have.
Well, the thing is, people are saying this diversion from Epstein. We know this in from Iran because we're getting our asses kicked a little round in the Hormuz a bit, and Trump isn't doing. He's supposed to be about winning this conflict there, and people are saying this diversion. I think it is. I think it is a bit of one. Even though Trump did promise to release stuff on UFOs. So people could argue with me about that and say bullshit. They have a right to. and everything else. But the thing is, I do get sick of people posting stuff on Twitter and saying this is all diversion and stuff like that. It's like, no shit, now shut the fuck up and let's have our stuff with the UFO stuff. The thing with Epstein is, all these people are going to get away with it. And honestly, all these people that deserve to be imprisoned or worse, and there are people that are from, there are Democrats and Republicans, there are people from intelligence involved with Epstein. I've said that, and other news sources will say that. I was one of the first people to say that years ago, because this is what I heard from some of the files from Epstein, as well as that, Chase was involved. You have some high corporate people from Chase Bank, and a lot of the top people, biggest people, richest people are involved. And it's unfortunate, it's ridiculous, and they should never get away with what happened. But when they interrupt and say it's all diversion, I just say, go fuck yourselves, get the fuck out of here. Let people have their time with the UFO stuff. We know that this is a diversion, we do. And of course, the bad part is they're going to get away with that. I have no doubt. They shouldn't. So.
Lou, you've seen the videos that haven't yet been released.
Absolutely. And they'll blow your mind.
There's a hell of a lot. You and I both know that there are much, much more impressive videos than the ones that
absolutely
have
no
been
question
seen.
about it. And I do believe.
This is the sad part. Like I said, I filmed some stuff that's better than what they released. And that's sad because the stuff that I have isn't as good as other people. There are other people on Twitter that have posted real video of real UFOs that are real up close. Not AI either. They're not AI. They're real. I know that some of them are real because I see some of them 20 years ago, and some of them you can just tell. Others you can tell they're AI. It's getting harder, but still, there's a lot of. I expected them to put out the shitty photos and stuff like that. But at least they put out stuff on the moon.
I believe that some of this is socialization. It's a bit of dipping your toe in the water before you decide to take a high dive and cannonball into the deep end. It makes sense to me. The government does like to do that. Think of it as a test balloon. In this particular case, I think they passed the test. Let's also not forget what photographs did come out, right? So we can say, oh, those are those photographs, those videos are very impressive. But let's look at the moon, the ones that came from the moon, right? There's several in there. There's several photographs that are very perplexing. Now, these came from...
This is the thing. They have videos. From what I heard from some astronauts is that there's some videos as well of these objects. I think I might have even seen them from places, maybe the History Channel. I don't know. I don't remember. There's like 15 years, 20 years ago and stuff. But they have some video on this stuff. The thing is, NASA wanted to see it. They told them to take pictures of it and video of that stuff. So that's one reason we have pictures of this stuff as well. Is because NASA told them to do that as well. As well as the military, Air Force that's involved with NASA. So there's a lot of stuff.
Came from the Apollo mission, the lunar mission, during the Apollo 11 lunar time frame. So 1969, when we first put a person on the moon. There are pictures there from the surface of the moon of objects that are orbiting the lunar surface. And let's look at reality here. Yep. We did not have satellites orbiting the lunar surface in 1969. We barely could put a person there, and barely.
Earth.
So it's something. And a lot of times you have to. It's not what the government says; is what it doesn't say. And this was very revealing because the government said, "Yeah, these are real objects. We don't know what they are." Right. So then, if they're real objects and they're not ours, clearly, then whose are they? And who had the technology to park something right up there? Watching what we're doing.
China wasn't number one.
Let's put up the Apollo 17 image that we have that was released today by the Department of War.
That was just Apollo 17. We have also some from Apollo 11. There's other ones as well from later on with the space shuttle missions.
As you would know, Lou, from our previous shows that we've been doing on Reality Check, Dr. Max Direk-Shani has been taking us through a lot of the lunar anomalies.
I have to also say, I hope Buzz Aldrin will now come out and say what he saw and everything, because before, he's been scared to do that, and other people, even other astronauts, have been threatened as well. But I hope Buzz Aldrin finally comes out and says, "This is what I saw. There are these, orbs, UFOs, and stuff like that out there, and stuff like that." And I think he has. Hopefully, they could get Ray Ross here to do it, and get him on or something, and we can find out a lot more. Get new history going on UFOs and stuff like that. So.
Have been seen on the Apollo missions, and they've occurred on practically every Apollo mission.
Yes, they have.
It's just that, frankly, I think NASA has been disingenuous or somewhat economical.
This is another reason why we don't go to the moon. People are asking, why haven't we been to the moon? Why haven't we been to Mars? Why we have these missions? Because I remember when I was young, we were supposed to have a base on Mars back on 2020. That never happened. Well, they don't want people to see UFOs. They don't want people to know about extraterrestrials and NHI, non-human intelligence and stuff. That's the big reason.
With the truth when it's denied that there's any evidence of anomalous objects. There are clearly, in the Apollo 17 image, for example, that I've just called for here, anomalous dots, 3 dots in a triangular formation in the lower right-hand quadrant of the lunar sky. And as the Department of War says, while this photo has previously been released and discussed by keen observers, the new preliminary US government analysis suggests the image feature is potentially the result of a physical object in the scene.
Right.
That's right.
Now, can you think of anything, Lou? You know more than most. Can you think of any prosaic explanation for a physical object that is displaying 3 triangular-shaped blue lights?
Sure. Let's go down that path for a second, Ross.
Yes.
It is true that when we fly satellites in Earth's orbit, whether it's low Earth orbit, mid Earth orbit, or high Earth orbit, we fly them sometimes in a formation or a pattern, and we call them a constellation. Right. And that is normal because obviously 3 satellites can do more than 1 satellite. Yep. So it's not uncommon, but typically when you look at something like that or a constellation, you think of something like Starlink, right? Think of a long pearl of satellites that are in a linear fashion. As far as having some sort of satellite capability around the moon, that just simply didn't exist back in the 1960s and early 70s. Now, what was around was the lunar module, right? So you had the lunar lander, and then you had this orbiting module that basically was waiting for the astronauts to come up and rendezvous, and then you go back to Earth. Think of it as a bus stop, right, for our astronauts. So that manned orbiter was in orbit. But what you're looking at here is 3 distinct dots that, if you look carefully, do appear to show a triangle. Right. And we do know that there are thousands.
From my own UFO experiences, from what I've seen out here, where I am, and stuff, I've seen ETs, their craft. I've seen them, be a triangle. I've seen one come out of another one, where UFO just comes out of the other one. So they have like tesseracts or whatever, like aircraft within a craft just comes out. and everything. And sometimes they can make themselves look like stars as well. They make themselves look like drones. They'll be a drone, and then they'll turn to a UFO and stuff. So I mean, they can make themselves look, and then they can be different objects. Like, you know how people could be, there could be three people, and then they can merge into one UFO, one singularity, right? And then they can split off and go different directions or whatever. It's really trippy, but it's fucking awesome.
Thousands and thousands of reports in the U.S. government's holding. I've personally seen many of them that discuss triangular-shaped vehicles, large triangular-shaped vehicles here on our planet that are in our controlled U.S. airspace. They seem to be able to outmaneuver any type of capability or technology we have. So you have to ask the question here, is what we're looking at something along those lines? When you when you really go through the entire list of things and you go through deductive reasoning, you start whittling away at what it's not. If you don't know what it is, fine, but let's talk about what it's not first, right? And so it's not a satellite, it's not the lunar orbiter, it's not a reflection off of glass or some mirror or something like that. Right. It is potentially something real. And if it's something real, then what is it? And what is it doing over the moon? So these are the questions that obviously lead people like you and me to start asking increasingly more difficult questions. I think NASA has not been sincere in the past, and I think there's a reason for it. But I do think NASA is starting to pull back the veil a little bit. I know several people that work at NASA right now, and they have been very forthcoming to me, I'll just say off the record, about what's next for NASA.
Well, he was lying. When I saw him earlier, at the NASA press conference, a guy was totally demolishing him about, the fact that UFOs were seen on the moon. And there's a lot of us that have known this for decades already. I did. And even the head of NASA there, for him to say that there could be evidence of, could be life out there. And then as soon as Trump came in, he changed his tune and said there can't be extraterrestrials. There can't be UFOs. And like I said, it's a whole scam. They want to get those billions of dollars to have their own programs, but we already have reverse engineered technology or magic that could go to the moon within a second, or other galaxies in a second, or whatever. And we can use all this magic to be around different planets, to be space-faring people. We shouldn't have to be on this planet. We are social people. We're supposed to go out and learn. We're supposed to learn about stuff like telepathy and psychic abilities that we have, and communicate with other beings. We're not supposed to be contained within a shell. Limited. And we're very limited right now. And there's a revolution that needs to happen and everything. So, I mean,
what is the reason why NASA hasn't been forthcoming? Why would Bill Nelson have perhaps intentionally misled the public when he asserted that there was no evidence of anomalous phenomena, no UAPs?
Sure, because you're an organization that's supposed to have all the answers. You are being given billions of dollars to put human beings, live human beings, around the moon, up into space, right? And you are supposed to be the resident expert above anybody and everybody else in the world. Right. So when you come out and you say, look, there's something up there maybe with us. And by the way, it's not relying on rocket propellant and rocket technology and oxidizers and things like that, but something truly advanced. That's not a good spot for NASA to be in, because NASA is supposed to be on the leading edge, the cutting edge of space and space exploration. And if it turns out that somebody beat us to the punch, well, that's not a really good look for NASA now, is it? And
Why
so
give
then you
them
have a
all that
lot
money,
of what we
right?
say explaining to do, right? Or explaining to do
Well,
to the American public and to the administration. You know, why is it now we're only now beginning to have this conversation? If NASA, you have had decades, which they have, decades of information on this,
Yeah,
and your astronauts,
they
and
do.
you've told your astronauts not to say anything. Why is that? What is it that you had to fear? Who was
And
pulled?
why do they always, all the time that they have so-called live streams of the International Space Station, they're never live anymore. They're not. You know why? Because a lot of these real live streams, UFOs were coming on camera, and they'd have to cut the cameras. I've ever seen this on the History Channel as well, and other sites from YouTube. I invite you guys to try and look for yourselves on, I believe you get this from HBO Max, where they have History Channel, Discovery, and stuff like that. And find these videos for yourself. And you'll see all the lies that NASA's been doing. Like I said, there's two NASA's. The classified NASA that keeps things classified with UFOs and airbrushes them off of photos and videos. And then you have the public NASA that's to do with national aeronautics, space, and science and stuff like that. And they're way behind and stuff. And they either need to be shut down or they need to be totally redone and stuff. So
pulling the purse strings to keep you quiet, and what threats were they using to keep you quiet?
So, Lou, from your knowledge of what you've been told by people in NASA, do you think the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, was lying when he made his public statement
Yes.
that there's no evidence of UAPs?
No,
Right
I think
out
he
of
was
bounds.
like a lot of bureaucrats, just misinformed by his staff. It happens all the time. Look, when I
Don't-
was in the Pentagon, when
dude,
people were
don't lie
asking,
for him. Don't lie for him. He knows this stuff. Don't lie for him, bro. Don't.
does the Pentagon have a UFO program? I knew he did. Why? Because I was one of the guys running it. And yet, when you have a Secretary of Defense or a Secretary of the Army come and say, no, we don't have any program like that, they simply haven't been told. They haven't been briefed on it. They don't know. So I think that may be the case with Nelson. I hope it is.
Have you seen any of the 46 videos that Representative Anna Paulina Luna has requested from the Pentagon?
I have.
Are they more interesting than what we've seen today?
They have to.
Well, that's subjective
right?
now, isn't it? What's interesting to one person may not be interesting to
Right,
another.
true,
For me,
true,
the lunar
true.
photographs are very interesting, and most people would have probably just glanced right over it. It's really the context of the video and the reports that you're looking at.
Right,
It's not
context.
necessarily just an image. It's the circumstances that image was taken and by what capabilities. So
Right.
I do think there's some. Look, I've witnessed, and apparently now so as members of Congress. Thank God, so they know. I wasn't lying, and I wasn't alone when I said this. There is some very compelling video. There's some video out there that'll knock your socks off. I mean, there is no question that what you're seeing is kind of a holy cow moment. Like, wow, that is not ours. And we really will hope that's not Russian or Chinese, because if it's so, then we've got
I
a lot.
wish he'd stop this bullshit with Russian, Chinese stuff. I mean, they have a right to have their own program, as we do. And the reason why ETs gave these guys their own technology or magic is because they want everyone on an even keel. Even if the Russian Chinese are considered evil with government, honestly, these extraterrestrials think there needs to be a yin and yang in life. Back and forth, darkness, light, and everything, where if we're to have some, they should be able to have some too. And everything. So everyone's gonna have an opinion about that. But thing is like, I just get sick of this BS about with Lou and some of these military types saying, "Oh my God, it's extraterrestrial. They gave it to us. They gave some to them, You know, the Nazis had some as well. Catholic Church had stuff. So your time stuff goes back to the pharaohs. They had some stuff. So
bigger problems on our hands.
Can you give me a pen sketch description of what you think is the most ontologically shocking one you've seen?
He has to ask. He has to.
It's his job. Yeah. There was a video when I was working at U.S. Space Force. A lot of people don't know this.
There's a UFO. There's one of a UFO, the giant mohawk. It's from the 1980s when heavy metal was great back then. And these extraterrestrials came down a big giant UFO and they had a big old mohawk on it and everything.
But I worked on the UAP task force. I was working actually at U.S. Space Force supporting the UAP task force. A lot of people think, oh, you left the Pentagon and that's it.
With David Grush, no less.
Yeah, with David Grush. That's right. He and I both served on it. So when people were like, oh, you know, Lou was out of the game. Well, not so much. And I'm still not out of the game. I'm just a lot quieter now about, you know, how I do my business. The video that I saw was extremely compelling. It was an object that was extremely large, operating at a very, very high speed underwater. And when you understand a little bit about the physics of water, you understand the things called friction and drag, that there's a speed limit in the water. For boats, we call it hull speed. It's a physical speed limit because you have to have a certain design.
Like he said, it's like running to a brick wall. And people don't understand. A lot of people think that if you fall 1,000 feet, or if you fall 10, even 50,000 feet, and you fall to the water, that's almost okay because it's water. No, when you hit water at a certain altitude, you're hitting a brick wall. You're hitting concrete. It's the same with be submarines or speedboats. Not speedboats, but submersibles and everything. So what these UFOs have, like I said, they have an atmosphere around them where they can circumvent all this stuff, and it goes around the craft and everything.
Otherwise, you're not going to go past a certain speed. For example, a torpedo. The Russians have been very clever. They've developed some new torpedo technology that allows these torpedoes to go very fast underwater. But still, it's relative, right? It's fast for a torpedo, but it's not as fast as the things that we've monitored from aerial platforms. Over denied areas. So I have to be very careful what I say here because a lot of these videos were taken over denied areas and we don't want the bad guys to know that we're there, right? So I'm going to be very careful here. But the video is in ultra 4K high definition. It's not green, it's not blurry, it's color. And there are some man-made features right nearby so you can get a comparison of size, scale, and speed. And at the end of this, you realize that that's not man-made. We don't have that technology. There's other videos as well that I've been privy to and telemetry data. Sometimes it's not necessarily a video or a picture, but it's telemetry data. So you know how radar works? It uses electromagnetic energy. It bounces off an object, comes back, and then you can go ahead and relay a lot of things, size, distance, speed, things like that. The telemetry data I have seen while I was at U.S. Space Force from some of our most sophisticated orbiting platforms was stunning. It was enough to potentially make you change your religion. It was the things doing things that, quite frankly, not only can we not replicate, we don't even understand how it's possible.
Why wouldn't the White House have held back until they could formally release those kind of videos, Lou? Because frankly, my worry about today's release is that it tends to be easily dismissed as a big fat nothing burger. It gives the usual mainstream press advocates for taking this issue with ridicule and derision, like the New York Times and the Washington Post. They're already running stories basically suggesting this is a big fat nothing. Why not wait until they could release these kind of high definition videos?
But you have to understand that's politics, right? Look, our media today is biased. Our media has some of them are on the left side, some of them are on the right side. So it doesn't surprise me that certain media outlets are poo-pooing certain things because they might or may not necessarily be aligned to this administration necessarily. And that's why, when the shoe is on the other foot and you have, someone on the left now liberal, that's a president, you have kind of this same type of bantering from the right side of the media. So I wouldn't look at it and say, well, because of Washington Post and New York Times is poo-pooing this, it's not important. Let's not forget the New York Times broke the story in 2017 of the Pentagon's UFO program to begin with. I think what we're seeing now is probably just politics in action. I don't think it's insignificant. I do think it was a very good first step, but I do think, like I said, it's a bit of a test balloon. And this administration, this has never been done before. There's no rule book on how to do this. So the administration's taking a hell of a chance by doing it. And so they're trying to do it in a way that's least risky as possible, but still gives the masses what they're asking for.
Let's go to, I think, the issue that you've been very much the focus of discussing, the 5 observables. And probably one of the best cases in these files that shows the 5 observables, or some of the 5 observables, is PR34 from Greece in October of 2023. It's a UAP, an object flying near the ocean surface, executing multiple 90-degree, apparently instantaneous 90-degree turns at roughly 80 miles an hour. That's, by any measure, a dramatic video. I can't think of any technology that we have in human technology that allows us to execute 90-degree turns instantaneously. Do you?
Well, this is the thing. This object is putting on a show for them. It knows it's being watched. How do I know? Because extraterrestrials have put a show on for me. They put on shows for me with different multiple objects. And then other UFOs will come in, etc. I'm just being out there doing that, but I have problems with my legs and my feet, so that's one reason why I'm doing this right now and stuff. But they know if you're watching. They could be in space, and they know who's watching them here. There's that telepathy and psychic link that we can have. And honestly, we could do this extragalactically, where we can send messages, other galaxies. We could, it breaks space-time. We can message each other through the vastness of all space, time, and message each other and stuff like that. So, but yes, this UFO knows that they're watching.
There is some drone technology now, as recently as 2 years now, that do have some pretty incredible abilities, but certainly not instantaneous acceleration yet. We do have the ability to, I don't know if you've ever seen some of these large observatories, we use lasers because these have active optics. A lot of these observatories that look into deep space, and so to calibrate the optics, we'll fire a laser and they all kind of focus into one point. So we can move lasers in the sky and things like that. But as far as physical objects being able to conduct instantaneous acceleration, it's few and far between. There are some hypersonic missiles that can do that, but they tend to be very linear. They're not going left and right and up and down in different directions. The reason is because we are limited by physics. We have to understand that there are something called inertial forces. So if I take, for example, this ballpoint pen and I'm moving in this direction, let's say at 30 miles an hour, and all of a sudden I change direction in the opposite direction, 30 miles an hour, that is an equivalent of 60 miles an hour delta, a difference in 60 miles an hour. It's not just 30 miles an hour change, it's 60. And that causes a lot of stress and fatigue on equipment, on materials, and certainly any occupants that would be occupying these things. So there are physical limitations of what something can and can't do. And I've personally seen videos and data and telemetry data that suggest some of these things are, look, Ross, just let me digress for a second, then I'm going to shut up here, but this is important. You bring up a great point. The human body can experience for a very short period of time about 9 G-forces, 9 times the force of gravity on our body, or equivalent to. And that is, so when you're in a fighter plane and you execute a high G maneuver,
Right.
You experience that as a G-force, right?
Yeah.
To put that in comparison, some of our most maneuverable manned aircraft, like the F-16, the General Dynamics F-16, it's older, but still one of the most highly maneuverable, can execute about 17, 18 Gs at the unclassified level before you start having structural failure, meaning the wings begin to snap off and the airframe begins to disintegrate around you. Some of the objects that we were clocking while we were at ATIP were conducting maneuvers well over 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 G-forces, right? Well beyond the healthy limitations of anything biologically to withstand, and certainly beyond our material science abilities to create a vehicle that can withstand that.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, Lou, have you ever seen anything like the PR-31 video showing the orange blob? Is there any plausible prosaic explanation for that? You see, you're looking down on a building. I presume it's somewhere in the Middle East, and you suddenly see an orange blob appear. Have you ever seen anything like that? Is there a camera artifact that might explain something like that?
Well, I have seen things similar to that, but there were objects. And yes, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are camera artifacts. There is infrared glare. There are certain things that can spoof a camera. A lot of times people will come up to me, even one of these smartphones, right? They take a cell phone photograph, and then when they zoom in, you see this weird pixelation. It looks like the object is kind of fuzzy and is starting to do all sorts of weird things. It's not. That is the digitization process of the camera trying to resolve the image. But that is not. That is.
Well, one thing with the objects I have on my camera, they look like small dots. They look small, except for a couple pictures I have. Okay, but when I see them, they're a lot bigger. I don't know if there's time-space distortion with me, dilation happening between me and that object, or what. But the camera does not see it the way, or even the color of these UFOs is different. And they're a lot bigger than what people see, than what the camera gets. So the stuff that I put out on stuff that I've recorded doesn't do any justice, really, because they're a lot bigger than that. They come a lot closer to me than what the camera says. So I guess maybe there's time dilation stuff happening.
That is a limitation of this type of technology. When you're looking at super sophisticated technology that we use in the intelligence community, all that can be filtered out. We have a very high degree of resolution in our capabilities.
So, Lou, I guess what's interesting to me is what agencies haven't been featured in today's release. We know that probably the agency that has some of the more interesting imageries would include the Department of Energy, the National Geospatial Agency, the National Security Agency, the NRO. None of those agencies are included in this release, are they?
Oh,
yeah, no, they're not. In fact, I would probably go with Department of Energy and NGA would be a great place to start digging deep. Department of Energy for several reasons, because they have law that backs them up, that gives them authority over just about anything that has a certain radio signature. When I say radio, I mean really atomic decay, right? So radioactivity. Signature. So if anything meets a certain threshold, DOE can come in, and that's why when you go to these nuclear power plants or even some of these Department of Defense facilities, they're actually being run by Department of Energy because they are in charge of that. And we know for a fact, and so does the Department of Energy, and so does DHS, that there have been numerous sightings of UAP over, in, and around nuclear production facilities, and that all over the United States. So Savannah River Facility, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Los Alamos. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Right.
Lou, you've been dealing, I know yourself, with both people in the Trump White House, in the administration, National Security Council level for quite some time. Do you get the impression that there is a political will, a decisiveness from President Trump to actually do something about UAP disclosure, or is this just a diversion from him?
No, I think there's an honest desire there from the people I've spoken to, but there's also a real liability there. Everybody's talking about, what they want to see, but nobody's talking about what the risks are. And there are real risks. by the way, whenever you do this, because what you don't want to do is tip your hand to your foreign adversaries like Russia and China and broadcast an intelligence gap or a vulnerability that we have, right? You don't want to, or potentially worse, a new capability we have that wound up being ours to begin with, and oops, cat's out of the bag, guys. So
they already have that. They already know about what we have. The only people that don't know it is the civilians, in which we should know about this stuff. That's what pisses me off about. Is Russia, China, Russia. So stop that bullshit. It pisses me off.
That's not a good place to be in. Plus, there's also liability there. There's actually law, secret law in place that prevents and prohibits, in some cases, even discussing this topic. People think, well, what do you mean there's a secret law? There's secret laws all the time. Look how we do FISA all the time when we start collecting information on foreign intelligence services. And yes, Americans too. We listen into conversations sometimes, and we're not supposed to, but sometimes it happens. So, I think there's real liability there. The government has been involved in this cover-up now for decades, plural, going on at least 80 years now. It took us a long time to get to this point. So I think there's going to be some very careful maneuvering on what we do next, because there's very significantly, and again, I won't waste your time now or your audience, but at some point, if you want to have a legal conversation, we can certainly do that and get some lawyers in here, because I know that when I was briefed from the legal consequences, there are actual real legal consequences here.
Yeah.
Does that explain?
Unless he has permission to talk about certain stuff. My father talked about this too from working on secret stuff, is that it's about each one is a felony, not a felony exactly, but National Security Act, stuff like that. It's 25 years to life for talking about stuff that is classified, top secret and above. That's each time you do it. It's 25 years to life. So you keep on talking about stuff, it could be now charged or whatever. And stupid prosecutors love ad charges. So.
Why Congress has gone so soft in the main about using subpoena powers? I mean, they could compel release of information, couldn't they? If indeed, as is being asserted, I mean, the fundamental premise at the heart of all of this is that there's been a... Why is that?
No, because if you look at really, for example, there are certain, look at Executive Order 12333, for example, U.S. intelligence activities. There is a certain group of intelligence operations that never have to be disclosed, except for to the Gang of Six, or at least they should be, and that is covert action, covert operation. Now, I'm not going to go into detail here. There's a legal definition for it if anybody's interested in looking at it. But these are operations where the U.S. government can officially deny its involvement, and does all the time. And it will lie to the American people, and it will lie to the world to do it. And it's called, as part of that is covert action. And we do it all the time. And so if there are legal proceedings and procedures and precedents that protect these type of operations, certainly when I was working in the government, a lot of what I did touched the world of covert operations. And I would never be able to talk about that, ever, unless someone gave me permission to do it. And I don't doubt that the UAP topic has been handled the same way for many, many years.
Unless the president could pardon you as well.
Well, I was heartened to see, Lou, that Chuck Schumer was still indicating, as himself a member of the Gang of Eight in his time, that he's still keen to get to the truth. Lou Elizondo, it's great to see you back in public life after what I'm sure was a devastating and harrowing experience coming off your motorcycle. Welcome back.
Ross, it probably made me more handsome. Unfortunately, there's no really much improvement on this. So, fortunately, my wife probably got a little bit of a newer me out of it. But let me just say this real quick, Ross, before I leave. You have been on the tip of the spear on this topic now for a while, and this country owes you a great deal of respect and appreciation. because I do believe in some way what we are seeing right now is a result either directly or indirectly from some of your efforts. You have gone way out on a limb. You have brought people in, whistleblowers out from the cold, and forced this conversation on a group of people that really did not want to have this conversation. So to a large degree, a lot of where we are, there's a lot of people that deserve credit, right? There's people in Congress.
Absolutely.
And, Luna and Burleson and Burchett and Gillibrand and all those folks, Marco Rubio, but it's also the people in the media. And there's fewer of them than there are even the members of Congress that were supporting this. And you were one of them. You're one of the original plank holders. And it's an honor and privilege that I got a chance to know you well before today. To some degree, maybe you can sit back a little bit and maybe say, I told you so to some of your colleagues that maybe didn't topic very feels good, doesn't it?
Hey, that's very kind of you, Lou. Hey, listen, it's great to have you back and looking forward to having you on again soon. You get well soon and looking forward to seeing you in person in the United States sometime soon. Thank you so much, Lou Elizondo.
My honor and privilege. Take care, Ross. Thank you.
So now I'd like to get into some detailed analysis of the videos that have been released by the Pentagon today. And I've been dying to bring in Billy Kryzak, who's the principal of ProPixel, which is an imaging analysis company. He's a fantastic commentator.
And the only reason why I have not gone over a lot of stuff like people on Twitter have about some of these files, because I already knew about it. I knew about this stuff. I want something that I don't know. There's not much that I don't know. I hate to sound egotistical, but there isn't. There isn't. I know about this stuff for almost 50 years and everything. And so it's you hear about all these different kinds of things, and a lot of stuff that was talked about is from the FBI investigating UFO phenomena. Maybe could be crashes, and investigations, and whether and talking about people from Harvard or other colleges, academia, talking about UFOs. And I said, this is all bullshit. This is just stupid. It's just about them. It's like the X-Files with Mulder and Scully, about them investigating what the FBI has already looked into. And that's a waste of my time. And there's going to be some stuff in there that's interesting to some people, the thing is, I already know about it. So, I'm not going to waste my time with that. I'm not. My job, for me, it's about evolving and breaking past the human limits. Me, it's the spiritual part. And people knowing the truth, not what's already been investigated in the FBI, what they investigated. We want the answers out there. We want the proof. I don't need proof. I see UFOs. I see ET stuff like that. I know what's real. And nobody can tell me different. Especially I have decades of experience with this, of seeing UFOs. So, it's other people may be interested in that, but for me, it's just, I already knew that. It's I want the real good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Let's stop with the BS. Let's get the real stuff that people want to know.
On imagery, and very, very clever with his analysis. Billy's somebody that I've been wanting to bring on to Reality Check for some time. It's kind of I'm hoping he'll become a kind of resident expert analyst on things imagery, because as we all know, the big problem with AI is it's becoming so easy to fake UAP imagery, and I get literally hundreds of videos.
And the thing is, if it looks too good, if this what they are, it's just going to look like an object. Okay, it's to look like an object going through there. Real UFO looks like it's not supposed to be there so much. Okay, AI is pretty dumb, thank God, with a lot of stuff, and how you can tell a lot of times, and it's getting better. All right. But when you see an object that looks too clear, and you see an object that just is too perfect, it's not real. It just isn't. Because the UFOs distort time and space around them. It's good. The pictures could be a bit distorted. Some stuff is pretty clear. Right? There's some stuff that's clear, it can look glossy, but I'm saying that's usually, not always, but usually how you can know. So you just see some atmospheric differentiation with real UFOs. Not always, but like 90% of the time, just about.
Sent to me every week. And I guess I thought it would be a good start to introduce Billy today to our audience. Billy, welcome to Reality Check. Firstly, just off the top, what's your take on this release? Is it a big nothing burger?
Well, I guess it depends on the audience that you're trying to address here, right? I think it's really a very soft and easy entrance to get the masses involved. And I would say, I think it basically brings us up to where the citizen science side of the house has kind of self-discovered what's going on in our skies. And this is the Department of War and the release of enough information to say, yes, what you've been seeing so far is actually something that's going on.
Yeah,
okay, so let's start from the nuts and bolts. What do you think, if any, of the images that have been released today, or of any of the documentation, is the most profoundly interesting imagery?
Well, number one, there's a number of jellyfish. The Class 7 jellyfish UAP, one of my favorite ones for some silly reason. But seeing that one out there and captured and presented like that multiple times, I found that really fascinating. But also,
so we're talking here about video PR29 or video PR28.
There was two of them that I think yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why do you say they're jellyfish? Because frankly, looking at them myself, they look just kind of like blobs, let's be honest about it.
Yeah, so it almost looks like a balloon, right? Of course, it's the balloon theory over and over again. But when you compare what the Skywatcher team had developed or recorded over time, multiple times, and what they've published, you can see it matches that shape and kind of velocity. I've recorded them myself as well. And, when you see them, initially they look like a balloon. But then when you go back and you do the analysis of what's going on in the entire situation with the observation, you'll see that they're moving parallel to the wind. They're moving against the wind. They'll be moving faster than the wind. So there's a lot of factors that play into this that tell you, once you've done the actual digging, that there's something far more different than just a balloon up there.
So these two images appear to show something with kind of like a dangle below a kind of an orb-shaped object. Is that why it's called a jellyfish? Because essentially it looks like it's got tentacles dangling down below it?
Yes, that's exactly why. You'll see in a number of videos that are online that you can find even on my feed, where there'll be detail in those tentacles. It's not just a string that hangs down. You'll see that there's different nodules on there, or it's just there's detail there that's just usually not on a string that's hanging off the end of a balloon.
So what could it be? I mean, is there any prosaic explanation that you can think of for an object that's moving against the wind? So it's not a balloon, it's not a static object that's moving with the wind. It doesn't appear to have any visible means of propulsion. It's just a blob with something hanging down below it. Is there a prosaic explanation?
Well, I think there's two theories right now on that, and one of them is it's biological, right? It's actually a life form that's floating around in our atmosphere, and it's just living its life up there doing what it's doing, and maybe the tentacle is part of its feeding apparatus, right, as it pulls the different animals or whatever that's in
this is something when the Challenger, before Challenger exploded, there was video I saw of an unidentified object that was, oh my god, his face. I'm sorry. I had to stop this when they have the weirdest faces. Anyways, it was shaped like a snake or giant worm. And this is around, I believe, Challenger, and it's happened with a couple other space shuttles. But seeing this, like I said, they come in all different shapes and sizes and everything. And I think that's where more people are to be wowed and everything. But seeing this by the space shuttle, you wonder, you know, especially with Challenger, you know, you always think, you know, did they do something to Challenger or something? But you know that they shouldn't have lift off that day. It was too cold to his eyes. And the O-rings, there were probably the O-rings with the rocket boosters. And stuff, so you had all these different things going against that, and unfortunately they blew up. I remember that day. School.
Our atmosphere, because we know it's filled with life. The other one is it's either mechanical or biomechanical, and it could be like an ISR device where it's out there actually doing reconnaissance and trying to do signal intelligence and seeing what's going on in an area that may be hot at the time. It's inconclusive right now, but those are the two working theories that at least I have.
Now, I think people are to be wowed at how some of these objects could be biological in a way, how they could be living, what could be artificial intelligence, what could be actual living, and what is not, you know, what is, you know, ETs and stuff like that, or what is merely shaped in actual living. And there's, I mean, like I said, things come in all the weirdest shapes and sizes. I saw a video, I think it was in the UK, and people see this from Discovery Networks, from HBO Max, where there was an unidentified object that looked like a witch a bit. And I think this is where in the old days, hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, where, you know, people would make up this fairy tale about witches. I saw that object by, you know, this pole or whatever in England, and it looks like a witch. And I think that's where they got witches from. Is from those types of objects.
There's another one, I think you've referred to this, I notice, on your ProPixel Twitter X feed as a tesseract. That's video PR26. Tesseract, yeah. What is a tesseract, and why do you think this object is a tesseract?
So this is the Class 10, the tesseract. It is a really unusual object, and it's been seen really infrequently. I haven't really seen this from many of the folks that have actually sent me videos from, you know, the civil side of the house. It's something that James Fowler actually discovered early on in his work, and he shared with me a number of images and some video of the object itself.
James Fowler, for our audience,
it looks like when you see it.
James is one of the principals, or previously one of the principals of Skywatcher.
I'm sorry, the signal cut out there, Ross.
My apologies. I was just explaining to our audience that James Fowler was one of the principals of Skywatcher, who did a lot of the early research to identify the different classes of UAP, among them the Tesseract and the jellyfish that we've talked about so far.
Yes. So what he shared with me was prior to Skywatch. And you could see really good detail in the actual object itself. It looks like a cube. a perfect cube with cubes on the points of the larger cube that's in the center. And when you see the object in flight, it looks like there's actually plasma moving through the channels, and it cycles through different colors. You'll see magenta, green, red, blue, and aqua. And in the initial video of that one, the one video that we're just talking about, it shows that what looks like the system is a fused system. So it may be a video that has spectral color in it, so it's got the optical, and the mid-wave infrared. And when I looked at it, you can see there's actually colors and actually a little bit of detail in the image that match what we see with the Tesseract. So that's just one piece of data that we have that makes it look like it could be that.
So one of the most intriguing objects, and I initially got very excited until I started hearing some of the quite plausible debunks, was PR38, the cruciform, the 8-pointed star object. Let's have a look at this, and then can you please give me your take on what this might be?
Yeah, so it's clearly a very hot object. So you can see behind it, it leaves a trail. And these optical systems, that they're designed to not have that happen. The military side of the house, they use cooled systems. So what that does is it makes sure that any thermal energy that the sensor receives through the lens gets sucked out of the sensor, so you don't have these effects where you can see trails and other blooming and all these other kinds of things that are unwanted. So the fact that this is leaving trails is saying that this is a very highly energetic object. Its temperature that it's outputting is far greater than the background noise or the background temperature, so there's a major delta in the temperature. And that's why we're seeing this trail. Now, if you take a regular uncooled thermal sensor, and if you pass by the sun with it, you'll see that it does exactly the same thing. So you'll see a trail that's exactly the size of the sun that's get left behind. So for here, the idea is when you look at the trail, it's actually showing you what the size of the object is. So this is more likely something like the size of an egg or a Tic Tac, like the other videos that we see where they're just round objects moving through the scene that's just really hot. And so hot that it's actually oversaturating the sensor with photons and thermal energy, which then once you go beyond a certain threshold, then everything kind of gets thrown out. And the optics are, playing games with how to manage, and the electronics are trying to figure out how to even read. And
it knows it's being watched, and it's playing with the camera. It's playing with that. It knows it's being watched. It's bombarding this camera is what it's doing. It's playing around with it. Like I said, NHI, UFO stuff like that, they know if you're watching. They could be in space, and they know that you're watching. You can see them, and you can see each other.
Identify exactly what kind of information it's getting from the sensor that's going to write to the file that's the recording. So there's a lot going on with this one. Really interesting. I don't believe that the actual star is the shape of the object. I think that's an artifact of the lens or the sensor or both.
So I think too sure, because they all have very different shapes and sizes. Don't just think that. I wouldn't assume that if I were you, because I've seen a lot of different shapes and sizes that, it seems ridiculous, but it come out to be true.
Debunkers have used the term diffraction spike. They suggest that these starburst patterns are optical artifacts caused by light bending around inside the internal structure of a telescope or a lens. That's a plausible explanation to you?
Yeah, it is plausible. If you point your camera, like you take your iPhone and you point it at the sun during the middle of the day, it's not going to look like a perfect circle. It has like a starburst effect to it. Yeah, it does. So it's just how the optics handles all of the photons and how the sensor reads all the photons that the optics have handled. So it's complicated. So a camera is just not one system. It's a system of systems. You have the lens, you have the sensor, you have the electronics inside that's reading what the sensor's saying, that's interpreting what the sensor is actually putting out. So it's not like the old school film cameras where you take a picture and it snaps and sucks in the photons and that's what you got. There are way more layers to this that have to deal with processing.
But we're still talking here about an extraordinarily bright heat-emitting object. What could that object be? Could it be explained as, say, maybe an aircraft light on approach to an airport, or maybe some kind of I don't know, I'm trying to think of any other explanation. Is there a prosaic explanation for how bright that object could be?
So I don't think we can get there with a light. Most lights are now LED, and even if it was halogen, it would not be throwing out enough heat to be able to actually blow out a near-infrared or mid-wave infrared sensor, or even long-wave infrared sensor. You could be looking at the back end of a rocket, possibly leaving, just going directly away from where the camera system is.
But that's the kind of heat we're talking about here. It's extreme heat. It's not
extremely hot. Yeah.
It's not just an aircraft light or a very bright light on a tower or something like that. This is something that's extremely hot.
And these systems are designed to see things like that. So they're designed to see the back end of a rocket going. So and identify it, right? That's all part of it. That's why these systems exist, so you can see and identify. So if it's doing that, then you're not going to be able to identify that. So in my mind, this actually is creating more heat than the system designer designed it to actually see. Unless the operator was operating it out of spec, which it doesn't appear to be, because the background is properly exposed from a sensor readout standpoint.
So the real object behind this cruciform 8-pointed star object is not what the camera is suggesting it to be. It's something else. We just don't know what it is, and it might be anomalous. We just don't know enough at this stage to know for sure.
Yes, yeah. The trail that's left behind is a really good indicator of how big the object is that's in the center of that star. It really is what I think is the best piece of data that we have for that.
Now, a lot of the objects that we see in these released videos they're kind of blobs. You don't see any shape in them. One of them is a good example is PR-37, and it's an object from the Middle East in 2020. It's an object just moving very fast across screen. Is there any plausible explanation you can think of for what these might be? Could these be drones?
Well, I've seen these things a lot flying over South Jersey. I could tell you that for sure. And they come in multiple different types, where they're a tic-tac shape, they're egg-shaped, or they're just a perfect sphere. Some of them are transparent, some of them are not transparent. They go from transparent to being physical objects like that. It's really hard to say, right? It seems to be like a class in and of itself, where we just have a circular style of UAP that's just flying through the air and doing something. Just don't really know what it's doing.
Okay, another good example of this, and this one's interesting because it does appear to display at least one of...
There's a huge difference between drones and UFOs. Huge difference.
The 5 observables, instantaneous maneuvers, right-angled turns. And this is PR-34, Greece, from October 2023. Right. And witnesses say, what you're looking at here is an object flying very near the ocean's surface. It actually seems to have a tail on it. I'm wondering if it's another one of your jellyfish. And it's executing multiple 90-degree turns at what is estimated to be roughly 80 miles an hour. You got any take on this?
Well, it could be just like the other object we saw. So I've seen circular objects and many videos of circular objects, or just spherical objects flying, that just do this, right? They do right-handed turns, 90-degree turns, 180-degree, change direction immediately, and even get to the point where they flash 2 times and then they just shoot off and disappear within an instant. So the characteristics that these things, the flight characteristics of them, are just beyond what we could ever imagine.
And then we come to what I'm calling the orange blob, PR-31. And this is a series of imagery, but PR-31's the most interesting. And you see an orange blob over a building in Syria from October of 2024. There are 3 camera angles of the same incident. One angle features an unusual orangish effect on the camera that the report attributes to a white ball of light, and there's another showing a halo from the light itself. Can you think of any explanation as to why it would manifest as orange on the imaging equipment used by the military in this kind of surveillance?
Not knowing the system that's in use, it's hard to say. They could have some sort of false color that would indicate distance. Not really sure, or speed. It all depends on the system and how the operator has it set to really see it. Some of them will do, like I said in the one of the prior ones, they'll fuse together color and the infrared sensors, so you can see some color, and it just all comes down to how the operator wants the display to show the information that you're looking at, really.
But is it possible that the orange blob is some artifact caused by the imaging systems inside the actual camera lens?
Well, if it was seen by multiple cameras, then most likely not.
Could be heat.
But yeah, there's always the possibility that there's an artifact within the camera system itself that it's seeing that. If somebody shot a laser at it from an off angle, it could be from that, right? There's all kinds of different ways that a sensor can get signaled. So, you have to consider that when you're looking at these videos.
There's another cool one, PR29, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, in June of 2024. And if you look closely, you can see an orb just above the ocean, and I don't know whether it's a tail or it's a reflection on the water, but it's a strange looking object moving just across the water surface. Got any take on that?
That is a classic Class 7 jellyfish. I've seen probably 1,000 of these videos submitted to me from people all over the world. Usually they're shown from below. This one's obviously shown from an aircraft, so it's from above, but this is a very typical look and flight characteristic that I've seen many, many, many times.
So what are these jellyfish? I mean, we use the term jellyfish, which implies some kind of biological object, but do we really have any idea?
Well, the two working theories now, at least for me, is that it is a biological object. It's just something that's alive in our atmosphere, or could be an ISR platform, right? Something that is deployed and it's out collecting information, collecting whatever it's going after, right? These things, they seem to show up all over the planet. I haven't seen anywhere that I haven't. I'm getting videos from all over the planet with these things, so they're not isolated to the United States. They're not isolated to Europe. They're coming from everywhere. So this is a worldwide phenomenon.
So, what do we make of all of this? Are we to assume that there are prosaic explanations likely for all of them, or do you think that there is genuine anomalousness displayed within these imageries?
I think when you look at the totality of it, right, there's too many similarities between what was just released by the government that align with what the Skywatcher group has discovered and published, along with just the sheer volume of videos that I get from citizens all around the planet, that these objects, they exist, they're real, they're flying around us. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but they're definitely doing it. That's probably the best way I could say it. Yeah. They show up in interesting places from time to time. In war zones, obviously, we hear about them being around there. So there does seem to be some sort of intelligence wrapped around it, that they have decision making as far as where they're going, and they must be doing something there that they're deciding to do based on whatever the environment is that they're entering into.
And crucially, Billy, from what you've seen of these jellyfish and tesseract objects, do you believe that they are intelligently controlled? Are they showing intelligence in how they maneuver?
I can say that several classes that I've seen and personally recorded, they definitely have intelligence to it. They are showing intelligent decision making and course correction after I've started observing them. So they would be heading in one direction, and then in just an instant they would change course and go somewhere else because there was either another UAP in the area, or maybe there was an aircraft nearby. You see them interacting with the environment, so they are making decisions. So to me, that's intelligence.
And just a heads up to our audience, we're going to have Billy on in a week or so again on Reality Check for a full program where he takes us through this evidence he's talking about. I've done a preliminary interview with Billy about it, and it's very exciting. He's got some great stuff. Billy, before you go, I just want to quickly talk about the Apollo imagery and the transcripts of crew interviews from some of the different Apollo missions. For example, here we've got the Apollo 17 crew transcripts, where it shows quite...
Well, this is what they, where people would be interested, and they would be interested in seeing from these files, again, let me show the site here. From war.gov/UFO, they do have the transcripts in these. So people will want to see that. I know stuff, so it's nothing new, but for others, they're gonna want to see that. Even I go want to read up on some of that again.
Clearly that the astronauts were seeing reflective objects in orbit. The command module pilot said, quote, "We've got a few very bright particles or fragments or something that go drifting by as we maneuver." And control back on Earth say, "Understand." They say, "There's a whole bunch of big ones on my window." That's the lunar module pilot down there, just bright. It looks like the 4th of July out of the window. Now, these are very interesting admissions. This isn't new, by the way. These transcripts have been available for decades. It's just that NASA and a large part of the American media and public have had their heads in the sand on this issue because, as we've been explaining on Reality Check for quite some time now, the issue of lunar anomalies is a big one. Is this an area you've gone into yourself, Billy? Having a look at some of these images from Apollo 12 and Apollo 17, where the astronauts reported, and I've spoken to people myself who've spoken to astronauts, notably Edgar Mitchell, who was the lunar module pilot from Apollo 14. Edgar told his friend, my friend the spaceman, that he saw blue objects tracking the command module as they were flying out from Earth and following the lunar module as it landed, and indeed from the landing zone in the location where they landed in the moon. He said he looked up and saw blue objects, physical objects, apparently surveilling them from orbit in the moon. It's really interesting to see this in the crew transcripts and to be reminded of this, but also to see the acknowledgement from the Department of War that these objects appear to be physical. That's actually quite a dramatic announcement, isn't it?
Yeah. And one of the audio clips, they actually said we have a bogey at 7 o'clock, or he said he called it a bogey.
I think that's Frank Borman from the Gemini mission from memory. It's funny, I was talking to our friend Beatrice Villarol, Dr. Beatrice Villarol, who's done a lot of the work on the alleged transient objects that have specular or reflective surfaces, and she's gone through extensive peer review, and she's about to publish a new paper further bolstering her research, rebutting futile attempts at debunkery. Basically, she's bolstered the findings that she's made that show that there are these apparently artificial, specular, reflective objects in geostationary orbit that have not been explained by anyone, about which I suspect NASA must know. Clearly, NASA does know from these crew transcripts and also from these photographs that have now been released today about these anomalous blue objects that were hovering over the astronauts while they were on the lunar surface and also while they were flying in and out on their missions. It begs the question why NASA or people in NASA chose to mislead the public and flatly lie. I appreciate
because it's a scam. They want those billions of dollars, and they want to keep people in the dark about the truth so they can keep on putting up rockets about a fake program. When they want to lie to the people, they can get that money, when we already have this tech magic from UFOs that we have that could go out to the moon within a second, go out to other planets, go out of our solar system to other galaxies. Like the guy, I quote him all the time in every live stream. Is it Ben Johnson, something like that, Lockheed Martin Scott Works. He said we have the ability to bring ET home, and we can go to other galaxies now. And he said this, he was head guy of Skunk Works and everything, and he knew about all these classified programs, UFO programs. And I always remember that, and it's just, NASA is a scam, that is.
Bill Nelson may not have known as NASA administrator when he made the statement that there were no UAP files or documents or imageries held by NASA, but clearly someone has been misleading the public.
It would seem so. It would absolutely seem so. Yeah.
Can you think of any prosaic explanation yourself as an imagery expert for what might display blue lights over the lunar surface?
It all depends on the system that's being used, right? So I've seen multiple different colors in our atmosphere, but in space it's a different story because you're talking about now you're in a vacuum, right? Yeah. So when we look at the Class 7 or the Class 10 Tesseract, we see multiple colors, which we kind of liken to plasma. Not sure if that would be the case in the vacuum of space, right? So I would imagine if you're seeing lights, that they want to be seen, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't turn the lights on.
Sure.
At least that's the way I kind of take it, right? It's almost like, hey, we are here, we're watching you, and we just want to know and see kind of what you're doing, and we also want you to know that we're here seeing it.
You clearly suspect, don't you?
He nailed it. That's the answer. That's the answer. It's like, we're here, we want you to know that we're here, we know that you're here. We also want to know that we are here watching you. It's almost like he had a psychic link with ETs like I've had with NHI. It's like, we know you, Todd, we know Todd, we know you, and we know you're watching us, we're watching you, and stuff like that. It's like a psychic link for that moment in time.
You believe that at least some of this is non-human intelligence?
Yeah. There's just the evidence is just too overwhelming. It really is.
To the
at this point.
Well, Billy Kryzak, we're looking forward to getting you back on Reality Check very shortly, but thank you for joining us today and giving us your quick, hot take on the imagery that's been released today, and hopefully in coming weeks we'll get to see more from the Department of War and hopefully other agencies as the big rollout begins. Billy Kryzak from ProPixel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ross. It was an honor.
So now I'd like to bring in my friend and News Nation colleague, Rob Jones, who's just recently joined us as a researcher. Rob, welcome to Reality Check. Great to have you on.
Wow,
this is the man who does a lot of the work behind the scenes. Rob, I'm really keen to get your hot take on today because I know you've just been as well to a Stephen Greer event with UAP Gerb, Sam, who we're about to bring in as well. I'd love to get first your take on what's been released today. Was it a big fat nothing burger, or should we be optimistic?
Well, Ross, to put it mildly, in my opinion, I think it's a great thing. It's the first taste of much more, and it should merely whet the appetite of the American people and of the people of the world, because this should represent, like I think some of our other guests have insinuated at least, that this should represent a very small fraction of what the American people deserve to see and hear on this subject, which has been kept from them for over 80 years worth of cover-up. And I think it's a great start, but I'll leave it at that. It's just that, a great start. And it should make everyone ready and willing to clamor for more at every opportunity that they have to their elected representatives.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Rob, and welcome to Reality Check. Can I get you to bring in UAP Gerb, Sam by any other name, who I know is with you tonight?
Absolutely.
I'd love to get UAP Gerb's take on this, because if anyone knows everything about the different acronym agencies that are capable of having possession of UAP imagery and data, it's UAP Gerb. Can Gerb join us now?
I'm not gonna
Absolutely, Gerb. Do you want to
say that?
But frankly, a lot of those aren't new.
I'm not going to give it a time of day because I've been around this stuff a lot longer than these stupid kids have. I know a lot more than they do too. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see here. FOMO.
Last week, the president said we're going to get UFO released files very
that's 2
soon.
days ago. Shit tube, I swear to God, those idiots. Those retards. Let's see. I want stuff now, not from... Oh, stupid CBN. Let's see here. Oh, Bob Dolan here. He's Logi. He's been part of the Ancient Aliens.
Okay, hi everyone. So
Yes.
we have just had
Speak.
what's being described as a release of UFO or UAP files from Washington, D.C. And a lot of people have been reacting to this already. There's been, there was, I think, maybe some excitement, definitely a lot of disappointment
Not
in
too
the
much,
aftermath
yeah.
of it.
That's true.
A lot of speculation about what all of this means. So I decided to do something very simple. I just went through the material, as much of it as I could. Not all of it, but enough to get a very clear sense of what we are dealing with. And what I would like to do here is just walk you through what I have seen. Not with hype, but not with dismissal
be
either.
allowing his face
I
because
did
he's
look
sexier.
at a number of comments on
Really?
some other videos and
Fuck. I pause it.
descriptions of this, and there's definitely a lot of anger and disappointment among people in the UFO community. Just, which understandable. I mean, this is because what we're seeing in this is
because some of us have been around this for about 50 years, so yeah, or some of us longer. Not only that, but a lot of us get pissed at these idiots with UAP. They have all these, on Twitter, have all these followers, and we know more than they do, and they're making money off this shit as well. Like these guys. But
tranche, I guess, of release files. 161 files in this first. I'll show you the website. I've got it linked below. I definitely would encourage you to go through these folders on your own. It's not that difficult. You can download them and review them for yourself. I'm going to go through this with you. But I think, once you go through these, you start seeing a pattern, and it's not quite the pattern that maybe a lot of people were expecting. The first thing that I would say about this is that this is not a clean single category release of files. It's not just modern military encounters. It's not just classified material being suddenly revealed. In fact, none of it that's been out there, I think, is really going to be explosive. What you actually have, though, is a mixture. You have, I was not expecting this when I first looked through. You got a lot of very early FBI documents from 1947 and through the 1950s. Okay, I mean, all of those, I think,
say that they're
probably all of those
stuff.
have already long since been released through Freedom of Information.
Right.
You get newspaper clippings from the 1950s and 1960s. You get some space era material from the Gemini and Apollo missions. Some of those are a little bit interesting. You get a lot of PDF and video files of recent cases. We'll get to those as well, at least a couple of those. And a couple of, FBI image files of some unknown objects, which you can look at those. A couple of anomalistic in the sense of this release, like it's got the French Cometa report from 1999 in here. It's like, what is that doing in this? That's a French report. This is an American government release, supposedly. So there's certain things in there that just don't really make a lot of sense logically. So right away, you're not looking at a single stream of any kind of new information. There's some new information in there, but you're really looking at a curated collection. And quite a bit of that material has been public.
Goddamn stupid thing doesn't work. Anyways, like I said, the stuff I argue about, and it just shows the FBI's investigating UFOs and watching these magazines, the newspapers on UFOs, on academia, universities, talking about UFOs and reports on UFOs and stuff with demons and stuff like that. And so it's just like, for some, including like the Apollo mission transcripts, that could be interesting and stuff, but there are a lot of us that already knew about this, and we want the real stuff, not this X-Files crap where they're just investigating stories. So
publicly available for many years, so that's important to keep in mind. I'll just show you some of these here. If you go back to some of the earliest material, you got some 1947 FBI documents here. You see something very familiar. Basically, reports come in. People see objects, the FBI logs and reports, and then very often they just pass the matter along. In one case, they say essentially, this is not within our jurisdiction. They refer it to the Army, Air Forces, and that's it. No conclusion, no deeper analysis, just move the information through the system. Most of this has been out for many, many decades. If you are a serious UFO student, UAP student, you're not going to see anything in here that's new to you. So now it's fine that these are officially released by the U.S. government. Fine, they've already been available through the National Archives system. So you really have to wonder what is the big deal here. A couple of these were interesting, and I assume they have been publicly available, but I don't really know. This is one page from the file or the folder on the famous green fireball sightings of 1950, primarily 1950 in the state of New Mexico. Those were real, legit, genuine sightings, and there's a lot of the specific events that were listed in pages like this in this particular file. It's like, that's great. For historical research purposes, it's useful.
All stuff is already out
really
there. Yeah.
Nothing that I think people today are dying to see. This is 75 years later. Although I would certainly emphasize that period of activity was and remains, in my opinion, genuinely anomalous. You have newspaper clippings, at least some. Here's a couple. These are from the late 1950s. They have an article on Carl Jung, the great psychiatrist. Like, okay, great. We know Carl Jung had an interest in this subject. He wrote a book about UFOs toward the end of his life. Great. The fact that this is part of the release, who really cares? Some of the other newspaper articles, like the one next to it, that's interesting for historical purposes,
it's just like
and
BS.
kind of fun to read. I wouldn't be dismissive of it. Really what you see in a lot of this is essentially the public layer. So you get headlines about some waves of sightings. Some of these newspaper articles, I think, go into the 1960s. You get some radar cases, some pilot encounters, and then even in the newspapers you can see followed by immediate attempts to explain everything away. Mirages, weather, balloons, whatever kind of misidentification. It's in these newspaper accounts. So interesting on that basis. So even in the early period, you already have, you can see in this.
Again, like I said, this is the reason why I didn't have any of that stuff on there. People could go to that Department of War site and find stuff that some of us have known about this for decades already. I know about, this, a lot of stuff. The stories just like these as well. These aren't the first of these stories either. They're lots of the same kinds of stories. They're just saying that, like, the FBI is watching these people. They're just like, why the fuck you have it? You're wasting our time. For other people on Twitter or whatever that have been around as much as we have, though, it's like, whoa, oh my god. But anyways, let me see here. Let's see here. I just want to go here and see what he says. Because the Admiral here,
it can't be explained by.
He talked about Atlantis here. This guy, former Admiral here.
A drone or a helicopter. It adds to the body of evidence that's occurring now in terms of video data and imagery that has convinced me that we are not alone in the universe.
Truth is out there, Fox Mulder said. The Pentagon today released what it says are never-before-seen images of unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs, or as you and I know them, UFOs, as well as several investigations into reported sightings that span decades. CNN's Tom Foreman probed the files to see what our interstellar neighbors may have been up to.
Crackling with videos and photos showing cryptic images of what appear to be very peculiar flying craft. The release by the Pentagon has UFO and UAP watchers buzzing, even as President Trump, who ordered the release, has said he doesn't know if there is life beyond Earth.
Yes,
I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do.
Many of the newly released reports are quite recent. For example, U.S. intelligence officials just last year saying they saw glowing...
Actually, Trump has said yes, he does believe that there are ETs. He said that before. He said that before he got into office. He made one of his promises as well that he was gonna, declassify stuff on ETs, UFOs, and that stuff. So he has talked about it. It's just
orbs traveling in some undisclosed spot at a high rate of speed. They appeared to be oval-shaped, orange in color with a white or yellow center, and emitting light in all directions. In 2022, there are reports of a military sensor tracking a UAP moving from north to south, and in another report, flying from west to east. In 2024, a teardrop-shaped craft and an uneven ball of white light and a diamond-shaped vessel traveling nearly 500 miles an hour are all reported by military observers.
All engines running, commit, liftoff.
Older NASA missions also appear, although many were made public earlier.
Well, the thing is, like that one picture that just showed that astronaut. Hold on.
Earlier, among them, a bit of unusual audio between the public earlier. Military observers.
All engines running, commit, liftoff.
Older NASA missions.
I think this picture was scrubbed. I believe that there was a UFO or two or three in this, because I remember one of the astronauts said that in these pictures there are actually UFOs in them. So I think this is a scrubbed picture right here that people are seeing, the censored one, but there should be UFOs. There should be orbs, UFOs in this. This is a censored.
Also appear, although many were made public earlier. Among them, a bit of unusual audio between the capsule and ground control during the 1965 Gemini 7 mission.
This is Houston. Say again, 7?
We have a bogey at 10 o'clock high.
You have any more information, estimated distance or size?
It looks like hundreds of little particles going by to the left out about 3 to 4 miles.
Also, Apollo 12 astronaut Alan Bean reporting from space in 1969. You can see these lights, particles of light, flashes of light, and they're just sailing off. They really haul out of here and press off out at the stars. There are many pages of comments by curious citizens, some obvious hoaxes, and more, but no solid answers about what it all means from government officials present or past.
I have not seen any firm evidence that there are aliens out there. What the Pentagon is now doing is basically letting the American people make up their own minds.
Now let's be clear about this. Almost all of this does get explained. It's an airplane, or it's a weather balloon, or it's a meteoroid, or it's sometimes even some type of mirage.
Most were, explained, is that, but the ones that weren't is different. Oh look, Shawn Michaels is a bully and a liar. News at 11. Oh, it's 12. Too bad. Looks like we missed that one. Yeah. He was a bully. He was a bully. He was bad. He got away with a lot of shit. Let's see. Where is it nice that YouTube doesn't put out the ones that I want? That, they have these stupid ones. They don't. Let's see here. What is it? Anyways. Just over this stupid thing. I want to see what this. Oh, that was This Nation and More. That's when. Oh, that wasn't. Brian Enton. Let's see. That yeah. Where the fuck is that Brian Enton one that was on earlier? I swear, YouTube is just really shitty with me.
It can't.
That's me. How nice. Where is it? Not gonna go over that. Oh, there it is.
Ryan Graves is a former Navy fighter pilot and founder of Americans for Safe Aerospace. And retired Admiral Tim Gallaudet is an oceanographer who served as the head of NOAA. He is the author of the upcoming book, Holding Fast in Heavy Seas. It's great to have both of you here on such a historic day. Ryan, let me start with you. I want to talk about a couple of these videos and transcripts because some of them are very interesting. One military video that caught our attention appears to show an aircraft. It's shaped like an 8-pointed star. You can see it sort of weaving through the air in the video. What do you think it is, Ryan?
I knew you'd start with that question. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
well,
of course.
Right now, I think we're going to be in a state where there's maybe a bit more confusion than anything else as this information comes out. We've been talking for a number of years, almost 8 years now, just how common this was, but the public couldn't see that because this information was locked away behind security clearances. I think what President Trump and what Congress has been pushing for has led us to a state, and I'm appreciative, but there are other organizations that need to report in. I understand that this information is going to continue to come out on the timeline at this point, and I'm pretty excited for us to get into this data. This has been what a few select people have seen, and now that the scientific community and academic community can get involved, I'm hoping that's going to drive us towards some certainty.
What did you think, though, Ryan? I'm curious, since you're a fighter pilot of this with the 8 points there, but it looks like there is like a trail behind it. Any idea what it could be?
It's tough. The video that you're referencing, the first thing I see.
Well, that one guy said that we just saw. So it could be also at the same time. But I do know that UFOs come in all different shapes and sizes. But like I said, the other guy said it could be the heat doing that. But that's why I see that trail. But let's see here.
Unusual sights, including what he called a sizable object close to the moon and a fairly bright light source that the crew felt could be a laser. Another file is a NASA photograph from the Apollo 17 mission. That one was from 1972, showed 3 dots in a triangular formation. What's your take on those?
Well, interestingly, Brian, and thanks for having me too. The NASA videos and information, pardon me, that are
they're probably televising it to their world, live as they're watching monkeys go to their nearest moon, which we only have one, but supposedly. So, and that's what I think is that they're also doing is televising that to extragalactic network for other civilizations to see as well. So,
images and information that were released are actually old. They've been released previously. I think the more important story is a lot of the videos and data that you see that were just released, and it's really significant in terms of a historic first that the executive branch of the government has finally acknowledged that there are UAP in our airspace and water space that we don't understand, can't characterize, and need to research. I'm on Ryan's advisory board for Americans for Safe Aerospace for this whole purpose, is to remove the stigma of UFO and actually get aviators and citizens to start reporting this more so we can do active research into this and understand their nature, the intelligent control behind them, which we have no idea about, and just understand their intent as well.
Yeah, you make a good point. Just the fact that the government is now actually admitting that they don't know what these things are is something that we didn't see for decades. Is it what you expected, Admiral, though? Admiral, are these the videos you expected to come out today? Or did anything surprise you?
Well, actually, all the videos surprised me. Some of them are just absolutely impossible to explain. I mean, that wind farm video you showed, that is an object that we cannot reproduce. It's not a drone, it's not a helicopter, and it's under intelligent control. And so what is it? And I'm actually surprised the administration released that, because what that shows is that we are not in full control or understanding of what's in the airspace and water space of what we're operating in, whether it be in the continental U.S. or overseas in the areas that we're conducting operations. That's concerning. We need to address that if we don't understand what's happening. These reports are all filed by competent military operators with the purpose of saying, we don't know what these are. Look what's happening in Iran right now. We dominated that airspace. We know everything was happening. And so a report like this, when you look at how dominant our military is, to say, we don't know what that is. A lot of these are MQ-9 Reaper platforms. Some of them are Navy P-8 platforms. And they're saying, these are competent pilots like Ryan was, flying off the USS Theodore Roosevelt as an F-18 pilot. We don't know what these are. And actually, they're interfering with our operations and presenting safety concerns. That's a problem. So I hope that the administration will follow through and release more information and start developing policy about research to get to the bottom line of what these are.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, this certainly feels like a big moment forward, a big step forward for UFO transparency, but will this help your effort to erase the sort of like stigma for pilots? I remember you've talked about it. You know, if a pilot comes forward, a commercial pilot, a military pilot, and says, I saw something unexplainable, people would sort of make fun of them. They'd be nervous about losing their pilot's license. Do you think this is going to help with that?
You know, why ETs now I'm just seeing things. I think some of these ETs do it so they can go back in time. Because it stops time. Those machines can stop time. But they can also see time. They can go back. That's one of the things about it.
I really do. We've been operating in a vacuum. People haven't been receiving the information. And so when they hear these stories, something that sounds fantastical, of course, it's easy to dismiss that. But what they're also dismissing are the real national security and aviation safety concerns that come behind those reports, showing that some of our best trained operators, both in the air and with sensors, are recording this and deeming it important. Is going to show this isn't just some one-off thing that certain people have, but this is a repeatable pattern that we can track and understand over the course of our normal military operations and with our aviation safety apparatus that we have. And so absolutely, I think that when people see this, they should realize that what they saw wasn't just a fleeting thing that they can ignore. It's something part of a larger picture, and they have a responsibility to report that and add to that story.
Yeah, you just hope that more people will come forward now and feel comfortable doing that with these videos being released. Admiral Tim Gallaudet, Ryan Graves, really appreciate you both for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, nobody's on your chat over there also. See it done enough right now. I have, definitely.